I swipe was going 200K the other day. Give a fuck about your chains and your range, nigga. Cause I hella tears from your brains, nigga. I'm from the woods, fuck your hood, it's the game, nigga. What the fuck do you expect? We them gang members. Caught a body at 11. Fuck your section, I'm really stacked. Can't take that heat.
The fire starts before the sun clears the roofs in Pompano Beach. Neighbors hear gunshots tear down a quiet block, and then the sickening roar of an explosion that lifts ash into the air like black snow. When firefighters wrench open the charred SUV, there's no license, no wallet, no phone, just a burned body in the back seat and a gas can on the pavement. The scene is not messy, it is deliberate. It's designed to erase fingerprints, to erase DNA, to erase the last line between rumor and proof. Hours later, the name behind the smoke spreads through phones and group chats and news posts. The body is identified as Florida rapper 26Ceejay, born Javion Ross. He was shot before he was set on fire. Whoever did this did not want him found alive, and they did not want him found easily. This wasn't random. This was personal. If this was random, there's no message. If this was an accident, there's no gas can. If this was anything but targeted, it wouldn't look like a signature. One that says, don't look for us, don't talk about us, don't try to prove what we've already burned. What makes this different, what makes this unforgivable, is that it was done to a man who was already clawing his way out of a machine that feeds on anger and spits out grief. A man ready to cross from the underground into a bigger light, and a city that woke up to a car used as a furnace. The crime scene sends a warning, and the warning is meant to travel far. Before we go any further, I want to hear your instinct. If your block woke up to gunshots and a burning car, would you step outside or call from a window? Comment outside or window, and more importantly, tell me why. That first decision says everything about how violence controls a neighborhood, who sees, who speaks, and who is told to stay quiet forever. If you're new here, welcome to Dark Trace Crime Stories. We uncover the real stories behind the nation's most disturbing cases, not to sensationalize them, but to understand the failures, patterns, and warning signs that lead to tragedy. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss an episode.
Yeah, they really were scared by all of this. I want you to take a look, though, because since we last joined you an hour ago, you can see that burned out car is now on the bed of a tow truck that will now be taken away as evidence as investigators continue their investigation. A fire burning brightly early Tuesday morning, an SUV completely engulfed in flames. Inside, a person found dead, neighbors watching in horror.
Javion 26Ceejay Ross is not a myth pulled from headlines. He is a son and a grandson, named after his father, Cedric, and his grandfather, Nathaniel. He's born June 3, 1997, in Albany, Georgia. Middle class enough to start in private school, restless enough to get expelled, resilient enough to finish high school after moving to Florida. The line he walked as a kid is the line he would walk as an artist. 1 foot in stability, 1 foot pulled toward the heat of the street. People who knew him remember the same core. Creative early, writing lyrics in 6th grade, building beats, building swagger, building a persona that didn't wait for permission. When he shot his first music video in 2014, he paid for it with money from side hustles. The visual language was not coy. It was guns, quick cash, hard eyes, and a promise of danger. It sold an image and foreshadowed a cost. That duality, the draw of performance and the gravity of real risk, never left him. Between 2016 and 2020, he serves time. Prison changes the way music feels in your mouth. It makes words heavier, rhythms meaner. Inside, he collides with a circle that will shape his next act. Kodak Black's World, Sniper Gang, Wiz da Wizard. When he comes home, he signs in. He records. He starts rapping the way scars talk, plain, specific, unafraid of consequence. One of the earliest collaborations after release is Shooters with Wiz da Wizard. The energy looks promising. The orbit looks stable. It won't stay that way. His 2022 mixtape, King Cobra, gains traction, moderate streaming success, nearly 100,000 views on YouTube. The music is a storm of defiance and calling cards. Lyrical jabs turn sharper. Symbolism points at betrayal. The project felt like a rival, But it also felt like a declaration that old alliances were cracking. After the tape, the break becomes undeniable. The relationship with Sniper Gang begins to sour. Rumors circle around money, respect, and expectations. Who is owed? Who is owed an apology? Who owes silence? Kodak Black is known for public and volatile disputes with former associates. That volatility spills into the atmosphere. Social media becomes a second battleground. On Instagram, 26Ceejay accuses members in that orbit of disloyalty and exploitation. He says he kept things gangster, while others hid behind the internet. He promises to expose truths in upcoming music. His posts read like someone trying to stand in two worlds, a performer playing chess in public and a man who feels isolated in private. Chain-snatching allegations and credibility slander are tossed around like grenades with no pins. He fires back. He rejects claims that diminish his street credibility. He ties himself to past feuds, but refuses to wear the blame that others try to hang around his neck. The noise around him isn't isolated. Other Florida names, Wham Spinabens, Lil Cricks, get pulled into the discourse. Old pain resurfaces. People start connecting dots that may be close on a map but far apart in evidence. Wizard's death in Hallandale Beach in 2021 hovers like a ghost over the arguments, a mysterious loss that left a wound and a vacuum. To fans and local insiders, retaliation begins to look like a logic, a cycle, a math problem with only one answer. The suggestion floats above the comments and lives inside captions. If you cross certain people, you don't just lose a chain. You lose your future. That idea isn't justice. It isn't culture. It's a threat disguised as identity. And then the morning that ends everything arrives. Neighbors in Pompano Beach hear the gunshots. A pause stretches just long enough for the shooter to leave and the fuel to do its work. The blast takes more than breath. It takes proof. Firefighters beat the flames back and find a body burned beyond recognition in the backseat. A gas can sit beside the vehicle like a period at the end of a sentence nobody wants to read. The authorities confirm the remains belong to 26Ceejay. He was shot first. He was killed twice. The bullet for certainty, the fire for silence. Detectives call it targeted, not random. Locals reported seeing someone run from the scene after the shots. Those facts are not fog. They are clear. The aftermath looks exactly like the culture that made him. Rapid tributes, ominous captions, and posts that blur mourning with menace. He got set on fire for playing with the wrong crew, some say. Others turn the grief into theater and the warning into a boast. The debate reignites about where authenticity ends and encouragement of violence begins, whether the industry has built a stage where the performance doesn't stop at the edge of the microphone. Some peers condemn it. Some peers call it accountability, as if life is a scoreboard and death is a rule you learn by breaking. But grief isn't a theory, it's a whole. Friends describe 26Ceejay as loyal, charismatic, funny, qualities that do not survive long in a world that rewards defiance and punishes vulnerability. He is not just controversy. He is the person who left notes on empty fridges, the kind of detail that reminds you he made plans to take care of the next day. He is the artist whose tracks tell stories about survival and betrayal. He is the man who wanted to win on his own terms and discovered that those terms had been set before he learned to read them. What came next was supposed to be the part where evidence speaks. But the evidence was turned to ash. The Broward Sheriff's Office pursues leads. Detectives interview people tied to his circle, including connections in the Sniper Gang orbit. They move through the pathways the modern world allows. Social media activity, text messages, surveillance footage. These tools are powerful when you have a full chain. They are limited when the chain was cut in the first hour. The fire didn't just destroy DNA. It burned away a roadmap. It destroyed fibers, prints, and timelines hiding in upholstery and plastic. And even if someone saw something, fear eats memory. In retaliation climates, witnesses don't raise hands, they lower voices. The people who know enough to help also know enough to be quiet. As of late 2025, there are no arrests. There are no charges, There are no named suspects publicly. The case remains open, unsolved, and sitting in that cold place where the truth is known by mouths that won't open and hands that won't point. Public speculation persists that it was retaliatory, that it connects to older feuds, that industry tensions slipped off the screen and onto the street. Investigators have not confirmed any of that. What they have done is chase digital trails and sift circumstantial leads that refuse to solidify into proof. So what actually failed here? The first failure is the oldest. Fire erases. It deletes fingerprints, dissolves DNA, melts the places where the truth hides. The second failure is cultural. When violence is marketed as proof of authenticity, it becomes an instruction manual. The third failure is social. When witnesses fear labels more than they trust the law, silence becomes the loudest sound. The fourth failure is structural. Algorithms reward conflict, giving the biggest megaphone to the most inflammatory words, while institutions crawl behind. The fifth failure is the limbo of law. Online threats and posturing may rile blood and tilt tempers, but they often stop short of charges. That gap between dangerous and illegal is where people die. I want your read on something important, without naming names or pointing at specific people. Was this murder, in your eyes, more about sending a message, erasing evidence, or both? Tell me why you read it that way. Your reasoning matters more than the vote. It forces us to say out loud how violence is used to control communities and quiet cases.
This man says he heard an explosion. When he looked outside, he saw the vehicle burning. The view from Sky 10 shows the aftermath, a charred white SUV heavily damaged. The foam used to put out the fire left behind after the firefight. Police taped off the area near Northwest 2nd Terrace and 32nd Court, right behind an apartment complex and adjacent to a canal.
At approximately 6:30 a.m. this morning, Pompano Beach Fire Rescue got a 911 call in reference to a car on fire.
A Pompano Beach spokesperson says a nearby dumpster was also on fire in addition to the SUV. Firefighters discovered the body in the back seat.
We know it's an adult, and so the rest we're leaving up to investigators.
The story of 26Ceejay's last day is short, but its shadows are long. Gunshots cut the morning open. There is a window where a choice is made, not just to kill, but to cleanse the scene. The blast comes, and along with it, the understanding that this wasn't fury in the moment. It was intention. Fire crews arrive into a losing battle for evidence. Detectives arrive into a neighborhood taught to keep distance. The earliest statements frame it as targeted and deliberate, and then the investigation moves into the digital world, where timelines are curated, threats are performative, and posts lie forever until they don't. The case hardens into a shape we all recognize. An unsolved murder with a list of theories longer than its list of facts. And yet, the person at the center is not a theory. He is a man with a catalog. The music he left behind has an unguarded core, stories about survival, betrayal, and the plain math of authenticity in a place that punishes pretense. His project, King Cobra, becomes an unintentional emblem after his death, venom and warning. People who loved him do not get closure. People who hated him will never need to argue again. The culture moves on. The family does not. There's a lesson here that goes beyond rap and into the cities where it's born. You cannot police a persona with an algorithm. You cannot stop a bullet with a comment section. You cannot cure a retaliation culture with a streaming bonus. If the pipeline from boast to body remains wide open, then what we call the scene is just a staging area for funerals. Industry leaders talk about authenticity. Authenticity isn't a green light for menace. It's a responsibility to ensure young artists have a way out when the temperature rises. Mentors must exist. Mediation must be possible. Money conversations must be transparent enough to keep bruised egos from turning into burned cars. Collectives need quiet rooms where conflict can end without someone needing to win publicly. Communities have tools too. Credible messengers, people who carry weight in the streets, can create off-ramps for disputes that are already rolling downhill. Anonymous tip channels keep the bridge open between fear and action. When artists are in active feuds, show security becomes more than bag checks. It becomes planning routes, controlling who knows where and when, choosing who is responsible for the door and who is responsible for the ride home. Digital hygiene isn't paranoia, it's survival. Don't post live locations. Archive everything threatening. Save DMs to offline drives. If the goal is to build proof, keep the chain intact before someone tries to melt it. Labels and collectives have obligations beyond promotion. Build written pathways for conflict mediation. Provide mental health resources that are not performative. Offer a way to leave a label without needing to leave the city. When an artist says a situation is getting hot, treat it as a security escalation, not drama. The difference is life and death. If an artist won't or can't go to police, give them a credible intermediary who can. And when a threat crosses into criminal, do not pretend that silence is loyalty. It's a funeral invitation. If you're watching this from a place where these dynamics are familiar, you already know. The danger zone isn't the night someone throws the first punch. It's the weeks when a relationship breaks, when loyalty becomes leverage, when public threats create private panic. That's when safety planning matters most. Change routines. Change routes. Use trusted drivers. Let a friend hold the spare keys. Know who to call if your phone dies. Identify the people who will answer you if you call at 3 in the morning and say, "I need to move now." The system did not fail 26Ceejay by ignoring reports he didn't file. It failed him by building a stage where violence and success share a DJ. It failed him by allowing a culture to believe that retaliation is proof of worth. It failed him by letting a city learn to watch smoke rise and say nothing. And it continues to fail him. A case open, unresolved, and cooling. Justice doesn't arrive unless someone carries it to the door. We close where we should have started, with the person. Javion was not a headline. He was talent, will, contradictions, and the kind of humor that makes a studio feel like a living room. He tried to turn hard lessons into songs. He tried to stand in the middle of a storm and still build something. He wasn't perfect. Neither is any culture that makes young men pretend that being unbreakable is the same as being alive. I want to know what accountability should look like in a world that profits from conflict. What do labels owe? What do collectives owe? What do platforms owe when they push the loudest threats the farthest? Tell me how you would design real guardrails that stop the slide from verse to violence. And if you believe unsolved cases deserve louder attention, subscribe and share this video. That pressure matters. It tells the people who think fire can erase truth that they are wrong. It tells the families who wait that they are seen. This is Dark Trace Crime Stories, where we refuse to let memory burn. Thank you for watching and for honoring the life behind the stage name.